Okay. When you're ready.
Okay. I will call the Monday, March 7th, 2022 meeting, City Council meeting of Monona to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder Moore. Here. Alder Wood.
Here.
Alder Quirk. Here. Alder Goforth. Here. Alder Groupie. Here. Acting Mayor Thomas.
Here.
And Mayor O'Connor is excused.
I will entertain a motion, or, I'm sorry, we'll have a pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will tell you all that I'm not used to sitting here and catching you on the Zoom, so if you have something to say or you want to say something, raise your hand or shout out in case I missed you. It's not intentional. I'll entertain a motion on the minutes from February 21st, 2022.
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Additions, corrections, modifications? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, minutes are approved. We have a couple of public appearances, and I have a proclamation to read relating to support for the people of Ukraine. Whereas the events in Ukraine have drawn the attention of the world to the horrors being inflicted on the people of Ukraine by the Russian government, the country's humanitarian situation has surpassed even the worst case predicted scenarios, and the United Nations is estimated 18 million people will be affected by the conflict though these figures are volatile due to evolving conflict on the ground. And whereas for Ukrainian refugees and internationally displaced people, the most immediate needs include food, clean water, shelter, and protection from violence, the ongoing conflict has brought major challenges, including freezing weather, COVID-19 risks, and lack of access to health care, especially for women and the elderly. And whereas Ukrainian exchange students attending Monona Grove High School are experiencing unimaginable stress so far from home, and whereas the students of Monona Grove High School Model UN team wish to show support for their Ukrainian peers by encouraging Monona Grove students and the Monona community at large to support relief efforts in Ukraine through a trusted organization such as CARE.org. Now, therefore, I, Kathy Thomas, Acting Mayor of the City of Monona, on behalf of Mary Kay O'Connor, Mayor of the City of Monona, do hereby express strong support for the work of these students of the Monona Grove High School in support of their peers, and I encourage the Monona community at large to become educated on the atrocities in Ukraine and to actively promote the values of liberty, equality, and justice in our community as well as abroad. Signed in the City of Monona, Dane County, Wisconsin, the 7th day of April, 2022. And I cannot say enough to say I think we all are and should do whatever we can to show support for Ukraine and the Middle East, and hope and pray for the best for the world. We have two appearances. The first one would be from Jerry Thompson, who wants to speak on police department and the crosswalk. Address 306 Owen Road.
Hi, Jerry Thompson, 306 Owen Road. I want to speak about the actions and inactions of the police department. I've been at the crosswalk for the last 6 years up until 6 days ago, and it's because of the actions of the police department that I resigned. I mean, this year has been horrible there. People are flying through there. In Madison, they slow down. At the crosswalk here, they don't. This is about 3 weeks ago. I have a repeat offender that consistently goes by about 40 miles an hour through the crosswalk on the bottom Maywood and Nichols. And she turns in West Mundo. Well, I did give to the police chief her license number and everything. And I thought, well, maybe. I know they can't issue a ticket because, okay, how fast she's going, we don't know. But I thought maybe they would call and talk to her. Obviously, they haven't because she continues to do it. But February 24th was a Thursday. Friday and Monday, there was no school for Monona. I'm at the crosswalk on the corner, and all of a sudden I hear the bus beeping. It's got its red lights flashing. There's about 13 kids, middle school, boarding the bus on the corner of Flamingo and Nichols Road. That same car that I reported to the police department, she went right through the flashing red lights. I mean, it's like, I did stop her, and I did yell, because at first I thought she was going to hit me. She wasn't going to stop. I don't know how fast she was going. I just know she went through without slowing down or stopping, because I heard the bus beeping and I looked. I did commence to tell. I couldn't tell who she was because she had tinted windows, and I'm waiting for her to unroll them so I can speak to her. And I told her, you know, it's a $160 fine going flashing through red lights. You could, if kids are dismounting, you could kill someone. And I said, I'm not sure. I know it's between 30 and 300. I just use 160 as, you know, point of reference. But, and I said, plus, you go through here 40 miles an hour and then turn 40 yards in Estudio Mundo. I said, you need to slow down. Well, I did see Nate Reynolds, the police officer, a little while after, and I did flag him down. And he goes, well, would you like me to talk to her? Well, yeah. Yeah, why would I tell you this? And so he did go talk to her. He came back to me at my house. I was getting ready to play racquetball, and he said, well, I talked to her. She was very polite. I thought, so what? And she said you yelled at her. I said, well, yeah, I did. I mean, this is someone I reported that continuously goes through. And he said, well, you hit her car. I said, I did not hit her car, but I do have witnesses on the corner that heard exactly what I said, just in case there's any discrepancy with that. I said, and he said, and the Mayor Joshua, he said, you've yelled at him too. Well, I said, if they're going fast through there, I'm going to tell them to slow down. I said, this is a school zone. They should know better. They're educators. I mean, I guess being an educator doesn't mean you're intelligent. You just have an education. You should know better than be flying through 40 miles an hour. And he said, well, I know Josh. I don't know if he said he was a friend or not. He said, well, I've only seen her going 15 or 25 miles an hour every time I've seen her. Well, he's only been there once. And that's the one time I thought, why is she going between 20 and 30? Oh, the police car is right there. Okay. Well, he said, don't do it. I said, I'm supposed to stand there and not say anything, trying to get pedestrians through here safely as people fly by? He said, no, don't do it. I said, I'm not supposed to say anything. I said, well, I talked to Vicki. She, I think, retired about a year and a half ago, Officer Vicki. I asked her, and she said, of course you can. He said, well, Vicki's not here, so don't do it. I thought, okay, I'm just supposed to stand here, and people are flying through and not supposed to say anything. Well, the thing is, Mayor O'Connor knows, because the police department was never there for like 3 months. And if they would have been there at least maybe once the first 2 weeks, people would realize we have to slow down. Because they come down the hill, and basically you have to brake coming down the hill from the police station. Because you just, even taking your foot off the brake, you go 30 miles an hour through the crosswalk. But I tried to leave a message for let's say I was talking about, but Mayor O'Connor knows this happened, because I did call, and so did a bunch of people. I don't know if they called her, but they called the police department. One morning, and it was in the dark, I have a kid just about coming on the corner who lives on the corner. Kaylin was right almost there, and I see the truck coming at the top of the hill by the police station. I go out there, and I realize he's whipping down. By the time he got in Nuestro Mundo, I yelled, and then I ran, because he missed me by about that much, going 48 miles an hour. I mean, the people on the crosswalk saw that, because they saw the speedometer, the parents waiting on the corner of Flamingo. And it's like, and I had a few other people that saw it. But I did call the mayor, and I guess a few other people must have called the police station. That was the second time I've almost been hit. The first time wasn't 48 miles an hour, and I have numerous people where I've been out in the middle of the intersection with this sign up, and people have went through me, turned on me. I mean, I have a grandma on the top of Nichols Road right across from Methodist Church, I know Rory, her granddaughter, she walks her, she saw a couple times where people went through when I'm right up there with the sign. It's like, and I blame part of the police department because they were not there for 3 months until after. And when they first did come, Nate Reynolds has me move my car, and it's dark in the morning. And then he puts, which it's like, okay, why don't you put somewhere where they don't see you? Then he puts the floodlight right into my face so I can't see anyone coming down the street. I thought, finally, the second time he came and did that, I said, Nate, I can't see any kids coming down. I said, you know, you're going to have to move your car because they come right this way. So I'd have to step on the street.
Okay, Jerry, we don't normally get into a dialogue, but
Right.
let me assure you of this. I know that the police chief, that our new police chief is committed to safety and to driving, and I chair public safety. I will have a discussion with the chief, and we will work with you.
Okay. Well, I did resign because let me tell you, I did call that weekend to see the police chief or Curtis Regal, who is the lieutenant in charge, and I figured they aren't working, but I guess the dispatcher did tell them. They both are aware of it because I did get an email from Curtis Monday. Oh, we hear the dispatcher said you're thinking of leaving. Is it now or in June? Well, I thought, well, I'll go talk to him. Usually I'm able to see someone, not that I go there very often, but he was at lunch and he'll call you. I never got a call from anyone.
I'll work with you on it.
Okay. Well, I did resign because I thought if this is the way they're going to behave, I don't need that. You know, I was there 6 years and I know lots of those people. I like the parents from Nuestro Mundo. I've met a lot of them and the kids. You know, I don't want anything ever to happen to someone, even if I don't know them there, because
Well,
you kind of feel, you know, that's your spot for 6 years.
I'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next, we have Timothy Trekow, who wishes to speak on proposed changes to the Code of Ordinances. 2308
6308.
Inland Way, Manoa.
So
Proceed.
I just was coming in, I didn't know what this was about, and I think as a tenant, or as somebody who this conversation is largely based on, we have a lot of amplified permits and have had issues in the past that we've had to address. I just wanted to voice my dissatisfaction with the boards or the cities communicating to me at 4:45 on Friday that this whole ordeal was being taken place. It's gives me less than 24 hours business days. I was planning on going across the waterway to talk to the neighbors because I've asked them last year and they're all in support, or were all in support. I don't know if they've changed or not. So I didn't have time to do that, and I think it's unfair that these things are taking place, and you could say it's all liquor or all liquor premises are the ones, but let's be honest, we're the ones that this has been an issue for since COVID, since we reopened from COVID. So I think if you're going to have conversations and issues about policy changes or ordinance changes that affect businesses, you should contact the businesses maybe on after the January 3rd meeting when this was originally discussed. I wasn't told by the employee that sent me the email that they just came up with this and it was finalized on Friday. That's quasi-true. The agenda's approved on Friday, but the topics are well known and they've been known since January 3rd, and to not have time to prepare any input on it is it's actually the third time this has happened with us. There was another time where we were supposed to be informed about something and we never were, and it's just getting a little tiring. So I guess I just want to get it on record that this continues to happen, and it's fine. I get it. You guys are doing what you need to do, but we also have a right as a business in the community to come up with either, some backing or support or evidence or anything to try to give our point out. Right now, I came here, as you can tell through my stumbling through this, I mean, I'm just ill prepared to even give input on it. And till 6:55, I didn't even know what the ordinance pertained to. So I apologize. It's not more, I don't need to keep rambling up here, but I just want to voice my displeasure for the city's lack. And I guess if it's supposed to be my communication or my job to follow along with the city input, I just was told a few years ago that meetings pertaining to us, we would be informed with ample time to be able to respond. And this is the third time that has happened where that's not the case. So I just want to, that's it.
Yeah, and for clarification, this started out not necessarily to change the ordinance, but the method of who gave approval for permits to have licensing, because it formally went through the police chief and did not go through a committee. And so the police chief thought that was probably inappropriate, and so it was to change it so there would be a committee and oversight, not necessarily to change the ordinances, and the other things came about. So it wasn't that we were trying to change the ordinances, but rather who had the authority to give the permits.
But it transitioned to that
Yep.
well before Friday at 4:45 p.m.
You're absolutely
And
right.
so that's where my frustration stems
Yep.
from. And then also clarification on the 200 feet needs to be, because we're in that area with commercial. Do we have to go over to the commercial building and get approval from all residents that live in those apartment buildings? Or what's going to be the determining factor for a commercial building with numerous units in it?
We can talk about that when we get to the agenda item.
Has that been determined? Because I couldn't find anything in my,
We can talk about that.
whenever that guy was talking earlier.
We'll talk about that when we get to the agenda, but we'll raise that question. You can ask that when it is discussed, that they address that.
Okay. Are they going to approve it without informing us of what their determination is before that
No,
goes?
they're going to discuss it tonight.
So nothing's being approved?
It's on the agenda for approval, but it could be approved, it could be tabled.
I would ask that it be tables until more details are given based upon the vague and very ambiguous terms that are in the minutes. I mean, if they want to come after our rights to have music, or the process, they're not come after, but create a new way to do something, we need more information, because
Okay,
I'm not, that's why I said I can't say I'm for it or against it. I'm not there to say it. The only thing I was against was the communication that we've had. Again.
that's a council decision,
So,
so,
okay.
okay,
That's it.
thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to appear? If not, I will declare the appearance section closed. There's no public hearing, no consent agenda. We'll move to item G. One, unfinished business, consideration of ordinance 1-22-746, amending section 335-8 of the Code of Ordinances prohibiting noise disturbing the peace. And this is for License Review Committee. Who wants to handle this?
Acting Mayor, I'm happy to start, and then if Alder would feel so compelled to add to the conversation, great. Thank you. Thank you, Acting Mayor and Council, members of the public. Just for a recap, because this has been on the agenda more than once, I would like to say that as chief coming in and having an understanding that I, as chief, was responsible for the issuance of amplification permits based on my experience in 20 years at the City of Madison, my experience of being in charge of special events, and my experience of being a commander in the Central District where large licensed establishments and others have amplification permits. I found it to be a conflict of interest that I am responsible for issuing the permit and then holding that person responsible for compliance. it may come to the point where I have to enforce, and my staff will have to issue a citation for the very permit in which I have issued. And so I began to explore the potential that perhaps it was a conflict of interest, perhaps it created some legal challenges moving forward. And in consulting with our city attorney, he concurred that it did present some challenges with respect to conflict of interest. And so my interest was to move, as you mentioned, Acting Mayor, the responsibility for issuance from the police chief to another body. And it was suggested at first that Public Safety Committee review this ordinance, consider being the responsible committee for issuance. There was some language change to the ordinance as part of that conversation, some recommendations and additions added by Public Safety, by Attorney Cole, by myself. We've gone through a few different variations of the draft ordinance to include adding language from members of the public who've attended both public safety meetings on this agenda item, as well as who have reached out to me directly or have contacted some of you all who've conveyed sort of requests or inquiries as it pertains to this ordinance. So it includes elements, I think, of interest to the public, to include language regarding light motor vehicle noise. So when we're talking about the changes to the noise disturbing the public peace prohibited, we're talking everything that encompasses that ordinance, to include light motor vehicle noise, which we previously did not have described within that ordinance. What that allows enforcement of is for loud acceleration, deceleration, loud engine noise, loud blow-off whistles or whatever in vehicles, loud noise through motor vehicles. It allows your police department to enforce unreasonable noise as it relates to the noise that's emitted from vehicles. And so the other thing that it does is what I think is gotten a lot of attention, and understandably so, with respect to the change of the ordinance as it relates to loudspeakers or amplification devices within the city of Monona. The changes, I'll just do a brief summary of some of those changes. And of course, please feel free to add in, any of you, or Acting Mayor or Alder Wood. But one of the changes that it does is that it permits the city clerk to issue permits for residential use of amplification devices. Amplification devices for commercial businesses or enterprises need to go through the License Review Committee or the city administrator. And it goes on to describe the circumstances there. I will tell you that after this, just a bit of a quick history on this ordinance for those of you who have not been able to follow along. After it went to public safety for review, it went back to council for a first read. It received some recommendations, some additions, and a recommendation was that it perhaps be considered at the License Review Committee. License Review Committee, in which I was present for that discussion, took on the subject, and it was agreed upon that based on the nature in which the committee reviews licenses and the title of their committee, that it might be more appropriate for the License Review Committee to be the authorizing body to issue permits for commercial application permits. After LRC and recommendations there, it is now set to go back before council again. And here we are with another discussion. So I just wanted to make sure members of the public sort of had that history lesson. We've been talking about this, frankly, since June or July in public forum through public safety and common council. And so I just want to respond, if I can, frankly, that I am somewhat surprised that certain businesses were not aware of this ordinance, as it had been talked about quite extensively. As well, I know with the representing officer from my department who's responsible for serving as my representative to the License Review Committee, to make known that this is being discussed, and it was also discussed with other various entities as well. So I just wanted to give that brief history lesson and then be available for questions.
Alder Wood?
Thank you. Yeah, first I just wanted to mention that after I had reviewed the markup language that Brian had pulled together, I believe that was middle of last week, that I had asked him at that time to contact Breakwater and any other business he thought might be interested. And so, that's not something we're obviously required to do. It would be easy enough for any license holder to sign up for alerts to get the agendas for a license review committee or for this body. So that would be one way, since it is a vital part of Breakwater's business as well as others to keep track of what license review is looking at. That being said, I think the changes to the ordinance it's not real complicated. It's, as the chief said, giving the final review authority, or giving review authority to license review committee to issue the licenses if it's a commercial, requiring that notification be provided by the applicant to all residences within 200 feet of the subject property to tell them when there'll be the public meeting at the review committee. So it is residences, not necessarily businesses. If there are multiple residences within a building, if they're within 200 feet, I think that will still need to be covered. One important thing, and Mr. Crouch, you might want to make note of this, if you're going to do multiple events requiring the permit, you can come to the committee, all in one batch, and then you only have to do the notification process once, and I think there'll be a lot more efficient way to do it. So if you know what the dates are, our next license review meeting is April 12th. So if you know what dates you're going to want, that you might, get your application in time for that meeting. The other big change, I guess, is that limiting the number of permits that can be granted for in one calendar year to any single park or property or street location is limited to 45 within a year. Other than that, I think the chief did a good job of summarizing.
So how would we like to handle this?
I'll make a motion to approve the marked up language that's contained in the red line markup version in the packet, and clean language is below that.
Is there a second?
A second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry, there's a question from the audience which we're trying to respect but not answer.
I don't know if it's in the minutes, it would be in the recording of the previous meeting that they've talked about this.
Okay, we'll move to item 2, new business. I would tell you that there are 3 items on here. One is start for action, but after some discussion, we'd like to do all 3. And the reason for that is that, there have been terrible problems with both supply lines and getting work done and getting the lead on this stuff. And the sooner we can get going, the sooner staff can do this. So we would request approval on all 3 items for immediate action. So we will move to item A, consideration of resolution 22-3-2543, award of contract for 2022 permeable paver project, Public Works Committee. Is there a motion to take this item out of order?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval. I'll second.
Discussion, okay, so Dan, do you want to give us the,
Yes, thank you, Acting Mayor Thomas, members of the council. This item is for the award of the contract for the permeable paver project for the riverfront area. We received bids on February 17th of this year from 3 contractors to complete this work, and Hamburg contractors provided the low bid price of $140,632. Hamburg was the original contractor for this work in 2019 when the city undertook the infrastructure project for the riverfront triangle. At that time, temporary pavement was put in the parking bays, as well as the tabletop speed hump right in front of the park. We did temporary pavement at that time so the permeable pavers wouldn't get damaged during the construction over the next few years. So all the construction is done in the triangle, and that's why we're proceeding at this time with this project to replace the temporary pavement with the permeable paver project. Again, we received 3 bids for this work. Hamburg provided the low price, and all the relevant information was included in the packet for your review. And as far as Hamburg goes, we've had several projects with them over the past few years in the city that have been very successful. They're a hometown contractor for us. So we had the Public Works Committee recommend approval last week at the March 2nd meeting, and we received recommendation for approval from Finance just prior to this meeting. So we're seeking your approval for this project.
so Public Works is, they went through the bid, but we haven't done the contract, right?
This is for the bid award for Hamburg to complete the work.
But, okay. So are there further questions on this? Alderwood?
Yeah, Dan, looks like we had a budgeted amount of 255. This is about 177. Was the rest of that money allocated to other projects?
I believe we won't borrow for that, Alderwood. I know the finance director likes to get the bid prices in if we do receive bids by the time he borrows. So we'll only be, I'm assuming, borrowing for probably either the 176, 732, or just right around 180,000. There's no need to borrow the full 255.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Alden Moore had her hand up. Sorry, Kathy. Alden Moore had her hand up.
Yeah, that's all right. I was just going to make a comment, which is to say, to me, this feels a little bit like we're finally at the end of the riverfront. Because I know, I remember discussing the appropriateness of the permeable pavement many years ago. I think it might have been my first year on the council even. And this being an appropriate spot, but obviously until we got this last phase done, we couldn't do it. So I just want to say that to me, it's very exciting and it's very important having this permeable pavement in this particular area. It's a very appropriate place for it and should contribute significantly in terms of our stormwater and other needs. So,
Any other questions or comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 2B, consideration of Resolution 22-3-2545, approval to purchase battery-powered extrication equipment. Is there a motion to take this item out of order?
So moved.
Second,
All
I'll
those
give
in
it to Alder
favor?
before.
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Chief?
Well, good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody, even if it's not in person. This resolution tonight is for an approved capital expense. We're just ordering it before borrowing due to the lead time of the equipment. So this is the battery-powered extrication equipment that we're upgrading on Engine 4 as part of the Engine 4 replacement project. So there'll be a battery-powered cutter, battery-powered spreader, and a battery-powered ram, along with some various accessories to replace all the hydraulic equipment that's I'll be generous and say 20 years old on Engine 4. Some of it's significantly older than that. So this project is to replace all of the hydraulic equipment, both working and non-working on Engine 4. Lead time is about 90 days to 100 days for the equipment. So wanted to get it ordered as quickly as possible, even though we haven't done the borrowing for the capital budget yet. This amount is well within the budgeted project. So I'm happy to answer questions. I will also say this is a single source purchase. We have this particular style of extrication equipment on Engine 2, so there were no competitive bids received. It's a proprietary dealership model for most fire equipment, so there is no other quote for me to get, but this price is significantly less than what we paid for last time with the money we spent over the last couple of years at this dealership. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? Alder Moore?
Yeah, Chief, I'm just wondering if you could share what the typical lifespan would be of this equipment, since we've obviously surpassed it.
Yes. I know of departments that still use the original two-person, what they call the jaws of life, the original spreaders that came out in the late 70s. Hydraulic equipment is hydraulic equipment. I know the Public Works Director can also attest that you can sometimes keep things running far longer than they were anticipated to run, especially from a hydraulic standpoint. So the battery-operated equipment, the original tool we bought for Engine 2 is 6 years old right now, 5 years old, somewhere around there. Still looks brand new. It's actually used regularly. We just used it a week ago on a car accident out on the Beltline. So it does get used on a pretty regular basis. We do maintain it annually, so we haven't gone through and fixed as needed. So I would expect it to last the lifetime of the engine.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
We'll move to item C, consideration of Resolution 22-3-2544, opposition to SB 573/AB 588 related to electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Is there a motion to take this out of order?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
We have to vote on that first.
Never do.
Alder Goforth, would you like to read the resolution?
We have to vote on the star.
Oh, sorry, we have to vote on the
Star.
on the taking it out of order. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. So then we have the main motion on the floor. Alder Goforth, This is an important resolution, and if you'd like to read it, we'd appreciate that, and you can talk about it.
Okay, great. I'll try to get through, man. My house is loud tonight, so I'm missing all kinds of things here. So, opposition to SB 573/AB 588 relating to electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Whereas the city has become aware of proposed legislation relating to electric vehicle charging infrastructure, Senate Bill 573, Assembly Bill 588, and as Substitute Amendment 3. And whereas, according to analysis from the League of Wisconsin Municipalities, Substitute Amendment 3 prohibits local governmental units from owning, operating, maintaining, controlling, or leasing electric vehicle charging infrastructure unless the municipality meets certain requirements. And whereas a complete prohibition against municipalities owning, operating, managing, leasing, or controlling EV charging facilities does not allow for all areas of the state to be reliably served. And whereas in order to design and develop a reliable network of EV charging facilities, including in areas where costs may outweigh benefits and thus not attract private business investment, municipalities must have the option to be a part of the roadmap for delivering services to municipal residents, tourists, and to support small Main Street businesses. And whereas SB 573 and AB 588 as amended is an unfortunate example of preemption of local governments serving as policy incubators, a level of government most responsible to local needs and preferences, and at times the most effective means of service delivery. And whereas local governments have a role to play at strategic sites that often do not permit or attract gas stations such as dense urban and downtown areas, or historically underserved neighborhoods, or areas of convenience and attraction for EV owners to recharge, such as city and county parks, libraries, museums, parks, park and rides, among other social and convenient locations for charging stations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Common Council of the City of Monona, Dane County, calls on Government Evers to vote SB 573, AB 588 as currently amended, and directs the clerk to send a copy of this resolution to Senator Agard, Representative Anderson, and to Governor Evers, and to the League of Wisconsin Municipalities. I just wanted to add a couple comments as, limiting local government's role in electric vehicle infrastructure. It will tie the hands of local government, and local governments should be a part of increased transportation options. This bill would give private companies full control of the future of EV infrastructure for public use, and it eliminates local governments from future EV needs. EV chargers are an excellent example of private-public partnership between Monona and MG&E, and this bill would make that unlawful. If we look to the future, we can see that initiatives like the bipartisan infrastructure law support growth of the electric vehicle industry in a big way. And we should be able to provide electric transportation options for our employees, our residents, and our visitors. And this bill only takes cities out of the equation in supporting climate-friendly transportation.
Alder Kerr?
Did you intend for that last paragraph to say vote instead of veto instead of vote?
Yeah, sorry, that was my mistake when it should be veto. Yeah, that's my bad.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I will say that the Assembly passed on their bill, and they took up the Senate bill, sent that on, the Senate's scheduled to meet tomorrow, so we'll know whether this is passed by tomorrow, and then it'll go to the governor.
That is correct. Senator Agard reached out to me with that information today.
Is there further?
He intends to veto it.
Is there additional discussion or comments or that anyone would like to make?
Do you need a main motion to approve from somebody?
Do we have a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll move to approve.
Is there a second?
Okay. I'll second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. We will move on to item H, reports of committees, commissions, boards, mayor, city administrator, city attorney, and department managers. We'll start with update. If there are any updates or discussions on diversity, equity, or inclusion that council members or staff would like to make? I don't see any hand. Chief, I'll start with Chief Cheney Austin.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Since you offered staff an opportunity, I appreciate that. I just want to mention briefly that I did have my first meeting of the Chiefs Roundtable group last week, and I should say it's a very reflective group of I think the voices we need to hear from in our community. Varying age groups, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, gender, and so I just want to mention and impress how important it is to have these non-public sort of conversations with people who may not be very comfortable being on city YouTube, for example, in sharing some very valid concerns that they have about public safety in our community. And I just want to say, I believe, just from my stance, I believe that was a very productive meeting, and I hope to have several more in my tenure, and all have signed up for the next meeting that will take place soon. And so many of the discussions that were engaged in conversation related to DEI topics. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there any, Alder Groupie?
Yeah, I mentioned this at our last meeting, but we are currently accepting applications for committee openings. And I just want to reiterate that we are trying to expand the application process to include options for those who may not necessarily be able to meet at, specific times and who may, be required to meet virtually for, childcare or other issues. And we're really just looking to expand the collective voices that we are including in our committees. So please, if you are able and are interested, you can apply on mymonona.com for a variety of committee appointments now.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, Alder Wood, did I see your hand up earlier?
Yes. I just wanted to relate the continued with the justified anger class. I think we had our fourth meeting this last week. So it's going well. Definitely learning a lot, and good to also interact with the other members of the group.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Any staff or any other council members who have anything to offer? If not, we will go down to the sustainability efforts. Does anybody have any sustainability efforts they wish to report on? I don't see any hands. Am I missing anybody? Okay. We'll go down to committee reports. We'll start with Alder Wood.
No report.
Alder Goforth.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to first start by just thanking Jerry Thompson for being the crossing guard for the past 6 years. I've seen him down there fighting the good fight. He's done a great job, and really wanted to thank Kim Richmond for stepping up for that position. I also want to apologize because at the discussion point on the noise ordinance, I just had a lot of activity and that was lightning fast. I didn't get a chance to mention it, but so I'm going to bring that forward with an amended change. I felt like the allowing construction noise till 9 p.m. is just excessive. I feel like 7 p.m. is much more reasonable. I think about people who work early mornings or people who are getting their children to bed at 7 or 8 p.m. having construction noise, especially with a lot of large apartment complex projects coming into our community. 9 p.m. is just too late. So my bad, I missed it. I was looking for my notes and lots of chatter going on in the background here. I also just wanted to mention March 9th, so it's this Wednesday, our landmarks meeting is at 4:30 p.m.
Thank you. Alder Kerr.
CDA has been moved to the last Tuesday of the month due to a scheduling change.
Thank you. Alder Moore.
Yeah, thank you. At the Plan Commission meeting on Monday, we'll be reviewing a proposal from Dave Jones, who's been not only a long time business here in Monona, but he's actually the second largest business in Monona, which next to the WPS, which I honestly didn't realize until he came in front of the Plan Commission that they employ that many tradespeople in their work, that they were that large, but they are expanding further still. And then we'll also be reviewing the Slinda project on Owen again on Monday. As always, community is welcome.
Thank you. Alder Groupie.
A couple of things. So tomorrow Parks meets, Wednesday Transit Commission meets, and Thursday Sustainability Committee meets. So it's a full week of meetings. I also wanted to give a shout out to my former neighbor Lois Buckingham, who wrote the council about the efforts in Ukraine, and her and her fellow students' efforts to try to make a contribution and raise awareness about the perils that are happening overseas right now. So Lois, proud of you for being involved, and I hope you're doing great. I also wanted to give a shout out to Ryan Claringbold, who celebrated 5 years as library director recently. And I don't know that we got the chance to talk about it, but, so much has changed and so much has been accomplished, I would say, by the library and its staff, under his tenure. So thank you, Director Claringbold, for all you do. I'm trying to think. Oh, I did want to mention, I saw it posted on a couple of Alder pages, but the 2022 application for Monona City Parks kayak and canoe storage is open right now. For non-residents, due by 12 p.m. on Friday, and then for residents, if there is space allowing, applications due on Wednesday, March 16th, or due on Wednesday, March 23rd, opening on the 16th. So if you're hoping to store a canoe or kayak at one of the city parks where storage potentially is available, apply now. Thank you.
Staff, we'll start with the two chiefs. Who wants to go first? Alder Cheney Austin.
Thank you, Acting Mayor. Thank you, Council. Just an update. I think both of us, Chief McClellan and I, are about waist deep in Lexipol policy creation or revisions. I can tell you that I am pleasantly pleased with the work that we're getting done here, and you should see, public safety should see some recommendations for policy revision, probably scrapping old policies entirely, and you should see that in public safety and then thereby council. All of the recommendations are backed by and noted by either best practice, statute, combination of thereof. It's been very helpful as a department head to sort of navigate that. And so early on, I can tell you that we're getting a great return on our investment. So thank you again. Our community response internal team of officers and members of the department, we have our goal setting meeting today. Very enthusiastic staff, and this is extra work. We're amassing of them, and they are very excited about opportunities to problem solve, to definitely be more involved in sort of bigger package issues that they feel that they can help with. And it's frankly why they signed up to be cops, right? So they're very enthusiastic about that. I already mentioned the Chiefs Roundtable Group. And then I think lastly and more importantly, I also want to thank our former crossing guard for his years of service, and know that I feel bad that he's leaving in such terms. However, and I don't want to devalue his opinions because they are his opinions, and I like to value sort of the perspective of others. But I will remind the public and members of this council that we now have a wonderful public-facing traffic dashboard that shows every single activity your hardworking officers are doing with respect to traffic enforcement, creating case numbers for when they're out doing crossing guard enforcement, writing tickets, writing warnings, And as we were talking here, I just pulled up the data for the last 60 days. You can go up to 14 days. And Nichols is littered with the amount of work that your officers are doing out there. So I can't walk away from this meeting, although again, I want to express my appreciation for the work that our former crossing guard has done. It's not an easy job. I used to manage 60 plus crossing guards for the city of Madison. It's a tough gig. But I do want to also recognize the hard work and dedication of your police officers who are out there with very few resources, managing big box store calls to beltline crashes to residential traffic enforcement. They care, they're in it for all the right reasons, and I think this traffic dashboard demonstrates their will and their efforts to help keep everyone safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief McMullen.
Well, good evening again, everybody. I'm going to be briefer than Chief Cheney Austin, I hope. I want to echo his comments on Lexipol. I think it's a fantastic purchase by the city. I appreciate the forethought by the council for granting us this, because it is a lot of work. I do believe I'm actually closer to this than waist deep in it. But we're creating a lot from scratch. We didn't have a lot to work with on the fire department side, so having the best practice policies that have already been vetted makes the process much easier. It's just a lot of policy to work through. So yes, public safety, you'll be seeing some policies coming from the fire side as well, as early as the meeting this month. We do have an internal hiring process in place that's open for another week and a half or so. Already got 2 candidates that have applied. Expecting a couple more to come through. The goal being our open position to be filled by May 1st. All the stars aligning as the way they should. I also want to give credit to my staff. We're running anywhere from 4 to 8 calls a day, which is when you have 3 full-time staff and the rest of it is volunteer staff. It's a lot of commitment to ask of people to continually to come down. We had a beltline crash this afternoon. Relatively significant sounding and looking crash. We had 6 volunteers respond along with our full-time staff. But during the space of that, we had 2 other calls come in while we're busy with that. So I want to echo Chief Cheney Austin. Our folks do a fabulous job with very few resources to manage the call volume of a city this size. The last thing that I'm going to say is just to get on everybody's radar. It's come up a little bit in the background. Be prepared for some numbers coming through public safety and through the council over the next couple of months for capital purchases over the next couple of years. At this point, vehicle chassis are 2 years out. We have to order to even get them within 2 years. So vehicles that we have planned in the capital improvement plan 3 or 4 years out, we're going to have to order chassis this year, which means the city will have to commit to the timeline that we have within that capital improvement project and sign the contract order the chassis. Otherwise, we're talking trucks being 2 or 3 years delayed. That's both ambulance and fire chassis. Police vehicles, I know you're, Chief, you're looking 12, 14 months out just to get something once you order it. So I just want to give everybody a fair warning that when I come, it's not because I want to get trucks early, or we're trying to make sure we get the trucks that we need in the time frame that we need. So we're not talking any money at this point, more so a commitment from the city that we're going to buy them at the time frame that we said we're going to buy them and get the chassis ordered. So I will end with that. I just want to say thank you to everybody. I also appreciate the Ukraine resolution. I think that's valuable. There's several folks on our staff that have Ukrainian roots and descent, so it's a pretty hot topic right now. So I appreciate the council and the mayor putting that forward. So you all have a great night.
Thank you. Chief Clerk Hauser, do you have anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, in-person early absentee voting, it starts March 22nd in the clerk's office, and it goes till April 1st.
Thank you. Chief. Brian.
Yeah,
Brian, our beloved administrator.
Thank you. Just one quick update for you all. If you could provide the mayor with any of your committee members that are up for potential reappointment, if they want to be considered for reappointment, if you give the mayor that list of people by end of day on Friday, that would be appreciated. Thank you. That's all I got for
We're
now.
not going to see anything else?
No, we'll save that for later.
Okay. Okay. My turn, and I'm going to talk both as the acting mayor and as chair of public safety. And what I'm going to talk about, I've talked to the mayor about, and she's well aware of what I'm going to talk about. I have some real concerns. You all know how I am about process and procedure and rule of law, and I am very concerned that we're deviating from those. So I would tell you that, and I'm going to read this because I have a couple of comments, and it's going to be longer than usual, so be prepared. As you all know, I'm a firm believer in following the rule of law, which in the case of this body is our code of ordinances. It is my understanding that the Mass Transit Committee would like to have a discussion and perhaps take action on the bike ordinances. Procedurally, committees are limited by the enabling language in our municipal ordinances and in some instances state statute. According to our ordinances, Public Works have responsibility for recommendation on transit issues, to review and make recommendations to the council, and this is the ordinance as I'm reading it, on all transportation-related topics, including but not limited to bus service, taxis, bicycles, or forms of public and mass transit. When we created the Mass Transit Committee, the city delegated mass transit, bus, and taxi to mass transit, but did not include bicycles. So if the Transit Committee would like to take up bicycle ordinances, they would either need to change the ordinances or would have to be delegated to do so by the Public Works Committee. That's what our ordinances tell us, and we expect the community to follow the ordinances, and we need to do likewise as well. If they want to, they can come to the council, change who's responsible, or ask for some authority, but that is not the role, and it is not the purview of transit to be discussing, or making recommendations on ordinances unless asked to do so by the Oversight Committee. So that takes care of one. The second thing is that I became aware that an alder wrote a letter requesting the, quote, continued partnership of legal action of Wisconsin with the Public Safety Commission and their work with our police policy updates. I want to provide some clarification on that. The Public Safety Commission has never had a partnership to continue with legal action of Wisconsin. Rather, they participated, as did others, in providing public comment and recommendation during the public appearance section of the PSC when we were reviewing police department policy with Chief Ostringa. I have spoken to Police Chief Cheney Austin, and we are in agreement. The chief, the committee, and I welcome and value all public opinion. We do not single out individuals or organizations unless otherwise designated by the mayor and or the city council. And as a matter of practice, any council member can seek personal partnerships. However, in seeking a relationship on behalf of a committee, that is the purview of the chair to designate or the committee by motion, but not individual aldermen who are not members of that committee. That is what I have to say, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
No discussion allowed?
I want to go ahead before we do that. This is not a discussion on any of what I just said. It's not appropriate for discussion. It's appropriate for a report. If you have objection to what I said, you may ask to have it put on the agenda. If you have anything else other than what I just talked about that you'd like to talk about, I would welcome your you're in order otherwise, but you can't talk about what I just talked about.
Okay, I was just hoping for a conversation.
Thank you. Is there a motion, Alder Moore?
Nancy, you're muted.
Sorry, all. It was neglectful in not, I do not believe that we've met since the Snow State Games happened at San Damiano. And I wanted to thank the community, thank the Department of Parks and Recreation, thank the Ho-Chunk Nation for the Friends of San Damiano for putting on a great collaborative event on the 25th. And on top of that, we need to thank the Public Works Department who rallied to get snow up there just in case we didn't get snow on Thursday night. And we had a host of volunteers. We had a great turnout from the police department who all showed up, and a few threw snakes as well, lined up to throw snakes. Just can't say enough about the staff and about the Ho-Chunk members that appeared and that came, and Bill Quackenbush, of course, who led the games and led the effort, and the members of the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska that came to visit us as well and participated. Just a totally terrific event all the way around. We estimated there's somewhere between 200 and 250 people at the event over the course of the 3 hours. And I'd be remiss too if I didn't thank the school district who provided the parking lot and the little blue bus, which worked out great for parking, taking care of everybody, and the fire department who was there to make sure everybody stayed safe as well. So again, it was an all community effort on short notice, and just really appreciate everybody pitching in as much as they did for it to be so successful. And there's no doubt that we have other fantastic events to come, including other events with the Ho-Chunk. So I just want to thank everybody.
Thank you. I forgot one point that I was going to make when I was talking about this, and just to get my point across. As Chair of Public Safety, if I deem it reasonable that Public Safety should review the playground equipment to make sure it's safe, that wouldn't make sense to anyone because the police chief isn't familiar with playground equipment. And we have staff assigned to committees who have the expertise to handle the discussions and provide the background. And that's why we made the ordinance and made it specific. And I would be happy if you don't understand the logic of what I'm trying to point out tonight, for you to call or email me. Is there any other reports to be made? If not, yes, Alder, go for it.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to add on, I didn't want to step on Alder Groupie's toes, but on the Transit Commission agenda this week, we will have a discussion about the charge of our commission. The description of the charge of that commission on the city's website is that the purpose of the Mass Transit Commission is to provide for the safe and efficient transport of persons and goods within the community, and that we also recommend to City Council policies on the various elements of public transportation and transportation facilities. So we will have that discussion this week at the Transit Commission meeting on Wednesday.
Okay, and I would suggest that's appropriate as long as what you discuss is within what our municipal ordinances allow for, which is mass transit, bus, taxi vehicles, that transit. Having said that, a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good week, y'all.
Nice work, Kathy.
Thank you.